The owner of America's largest veterinary clinic chain, Dr. Marcus Petfield, looked at Jasmine Crockett with a condescending smile and said, "Congresswoman, to understand animal health, you first need to be a veterinarian. You're just an emotional animal lover politician." At that moment, no one knew that the hidden camera recordings in Jasmine's hands would prove that this animal doctor was actually a killer who murdered thousands of innocent animals for money. In downtown Chicago, on a cold November morning, the magnificent headquarters building of the PetCare veterinary clinic chain gleamed in the morning sun. This 40-story building wasn't just an office. It was the heart of a veterinary empire with over 500 clinics in 50 U.S. states, the home of a brand trusted by millions of pet owners. The giant PetCare Your Pet is Family to Us logo at the building's entrance was a symbol of the trust promise the company gave its customers. The wind blowing from the icy waters of Lake Michigan howled against the building's glass facades, and while the city's traffic had not yet begun, an important drama was about to unfold inside this prestigious structure. In the huge parking lot in front of the building, expensive cars were lined up: Mercedes, BMW, Lexus. These weren't just cars, they were status symbols of America's wealthiest veterinarians. This morning, a special panel was to be held in the luxury conference room on the 35th floor of the building. The room was decorated with dog and cat photos telling the company's 30-year history, veterinary awards, and pictures taken with happy pet owners. Under crystal chandeliers, guests from across the country had taken their seats: veterinarians, animal rights activists, pet industry representatives, insurance company executives, and media members. The photos hanging on the walls of the room told PetCare's success story. The adventure that began in a single clinic in 1994 had become a multi-billion-dollar empire today. Every photo, every document was carefully chosen to reinforce the company's "We Love Animals" image. The man standing in the center of the room was Dr. Marcus Petfield, founder and CEO of PetCare for 30 years. The 62-year-old Petfield was one of the most recognized and most feared figures in America's veterinary world. With his neatly combed white hair, wearing a $5,000 Italian suit, he was a figure representing authority and success. Graduated magna cum laude from Cornell Veterinary School, Harvard Business School MBA, former president of the American Veterinary Medical Association, dozens of awards, and known for his Animal Friend of the Year title, Petfield's personal story was a perfect example of the American dream. Born in a small town in Ohio, he was the son of a farmer family. Taking care of his family's farm animals in childhood had led him to veterinary medicine. Or at least that was the story everyone knew. The real story was much darker. When he opened his first clinic in 1994, Petfield was only 32 years old. Young, ambitious, determined. The first years had been difficult. He was struggling to find customers, barely making ends meet. Until he discovered the golden formula in 1996. He had increased his profit margin by 800% by showing healthy animals as sick and applying expensive treatments. This discovery had changed his life. The diplomas, awards, and photos taken with famous pet owners hanging on the walls of Petfield's office showed what a respected veterinarian he was. He had saved Ellen DeGeneres' golden retriever, performed life-saving surgery on Oprah Winfrey's Persian cat. He had been chosen as America's most beloved veterinarian in People magazine. He had appeared on the cover of Time magazine. But the truth behind these photos was much more horrifying. Ellen's dog was completely healthy, just shown as sick for an expensive cancer treatment. Oprah's cat had similarly undergone unnecessary surgery. These famous names had no suspicion. Petfield's marketing genius had made them perfect advertising faces. Petfield's office was a museum where success and luxury were displayed. Certificates signed by his own hand, awards he received, photos taken with leading veterinarians. Every detail was designed to remind visitors how successful and trustworthy he was. The woman sitting across from Petfield represented a completely different world and value system. Jasmine Crockett, 42 years old, in a green suit, with a thick folder in her hand, caught attention with her calm but determined gaze. As a congresswoman, she served on the Animal Rights and Consumer Protection Subcommittee and had come here today to investigate suspicious practices in the pet industry. Jasmine's life story was completely different from Petfield's. Born in one of Detroit's poorest neighborhoods, she grew up in a single-parent family. Her mother was a strong woman who worked 3 jobs trying to put her through school. Jasmine had spent her childhood feeding stray dogs and trying to treat injured cats. Back then, veterinary clinics were seen as a luxury service, and people in their neighborhoods would lose their sick animals. These early experiences had created a deep sense of injustice in Jasmine. Why did rich people's animals receive quality treatment while poor families' companions had to die? This question had shaped her entire life. During her years at Harvard Law School, Jasmine had specialized in animal rights. After graduation, she had rejected attractive offers from big law firms and chose to work at nonprofit organizations. For years, she had filed lawsuits against major companies for animal rights violations. When she was elected to Congress in 2022, Jasmine's first goal was regulating the pet industry. Especially large veterinary clinic chains had come onto her radar. The complaints she received, the reports she read, the stories she heard. Everything pointed in the same direction: pet care. This panel had actually been organized at Petfield's request. In the last 6 months, Jasmine's criticisms about veterinary clinic chains on social media and in Congress had begun to damage not only pet care's but the entire industry's image. Especially Jasmine's claim that big veterinary clinics systematically perform unnecessary surgeries and kill healthy animals had deeply disturbed the industry. Petfield had seen this panel as an opportunity. He planned to humiliate this young politician in his own house, in front of experts, both to protect his company's reputation and to silence criticism of the industry. He saw Jasmine as just an emotional animal love activist. He would soon learn how wrong he was. Among the experts in the room was Dr. Lisa Thompson. A veterinary pathologist from the University of Chicago, she had been researching animal deaths for 25 years. Dr. Thompson had been carrying increasing concern for the last 5 years. Death reports from pet care clinics were far above normal statistics. But every time she questioned it, she received standard explanations and was prevented from conducting further research. The worried expression on Dr. Thompson's face was a sign that this panel wouldn't be an ordinary industry meeting. Because she had noticed for years that animal death rates at pet care clinics were abnormal, but couldn't access evidence to prove it. This panel might be the last chance to learn the truth. Also in the room was Dr. Michael Rodriguez. Petfield's former partner. He had worked as chief veterinarian at PetCare from 1998 to 2005. What he had seen during that period had burdened his conscience. After leaving the company, he had been forced to remain silent. Being here today was a decision that required courage. Dr. Rodriguez knew how Petfield had built the system. The procedure of showing healthy animals as sick, unnecessary surgeries, organ sales. He had seen it all, been forced to remain silent about it all. Living with this knowledge for years had destroyed him from within. When Petfield approached the microphone, conversations in the room quieted. His authoritative voice was the same tone that had inspired colleagues at veterinary conferences for years, convinced the media during crisis moments, and could influence judges in courtrooms. This voice was his most powerful weapon. Dear colleagues, respected animal lovers and media representatives, Petfield began, his smile appearing warm and sincere. Today we have gathered here to discuss the future of America's veterinary profession and our commitment to animal health. Petfield's speaking style was an art he had perfected over the years. Voice tone, body language, eye contact. Every detail was calculated to influence and convince listeners. He wasn't just a veterinarian, he was also a master manipulator. 30 years ago, Petfield continued, adding a nostalgic tone to his voice, I started this journey in a small clinic in a suburb of Chicago. Back then I had only one goal: to heal animals. This sentence was his frequently used opening story. It would move listeners' emotions and help create sympathy for him. In reality, when he opened that first clinic, he only had money on his mind. Today, Petfield continued, raising his voice, as PetCare, with over 500 clinics in 50 states of America, we protect the health of thousands of animals every day. Our clinics provide services according to the highest veterinary standards, and we continuously improve ourselves. These numbers were impressive, and Petfield was aware of this. Size creates an impression of success and inspires confidence. But the reality behind these numbers was thousands of dead animals and exploited families. Unfortunately, Petfield was now moving into attack mode, the warmth in his voice giving way to a harsh tone. Recently, some politicians have been targeting our profession without veterinary knowledge. This is both unfair to us and misleading to pet owners. With this sentence, the atmosphere in the room changed. Petfield was no longer a friendly professional speaking, but a predator going on the attack. His target was clear: Jasmine Crockett. Especially, Petfield was now moving to direct attack, fixing his eyes on Jasmine, some people without veterinary education, without basic knowledge of animal anatomy and diseases, are making claims about complex medical procedures and treatment processes. The tension in the room was increasing. This had moved beyond a professional presentation and turned into a personal attack. Some guests shifted uncomfortably, but most waited curiously. Animal health, Petfield raised his voice to a dramatic tone, raising his hands in the air, cannot be protected with emotional approaches. This requires science, requires experience, requires years of education. And most importantly, it requires real animal love. This last sentence was one of Petfield's favorite tactics. Making the other side question their animal love, putting them in a defensive position. Panel moderator Dr. Jennifer Wells, conference organizer and dean of Chicago Veterinary School, spoke with obvious discomfort. Dr. Petfield, thank you. Now, let's give the floor to Congresswoman Crockett. Let's listen to her views on this matter. Dr. Wells actually didn't want this panel to start so tensely. In an academic environment, such personal attacks were not welcome. But thinking about the donations Petfield had made to the university, she didn't dare to intervene too much. Petfield turned to Jasmine with a condescending smile. This smile was one of the weapons he had used throughout his career, belittling his opponent, imposing his professional authority, establishing psychological superiority. Of course, Dr. Wells, Petfield's voice was now filled with fake courtesy. It would be very valuable for us to listen to Congresswoman's deep concerns about animal health. Perhaps she can give us new perspectives. The mocking tone in his words was understood by everyone. Petfield thought he had cornered Jasmine and was preparing to humiliate her. Some guests in the room were uncomfortable with this approach, but most waited curiously. Jasmine slowly stood up. Her movement was calm and measured. She placed her folder on the table and looked at everyone in the room. There was neither fear nor anger in her eyes, just cold determination. Dr. Petfield, Jasmine began, her voice calm but each word clearly pronounced. First, thank you for inviting me to this panel. I really think it's time to talk about animal health. This beginning had surprised those in the room. They had expected an aggressive tone, but Jasmine's approach was different. I agree with you, Dr. Petfield, Jasmine continued, looking directly into Petfield's eyes. Understanding animal health really does require veterinary education. Just like understanding what justice is requires legal education. This parallel had caught the attention of those in the room. Jasmine was implying that she too was an expert. Therefore, Jasmine continued, I want to ask you a very specific question. How many of the animals that came to your pet care clinics for treatment in the last 5 years and were initially evaluated as healthy lost their lives during the treatment process? This question had a bombshell effect in the room. It was very specific, very technical, and very disturbing. Petfield's smile trembled. Petfield stammered. He had been put in a defensive position for the first time. This is a very general question. Every case is different. Every animal's condition is unique. Statistics. Jasmine's voice sharpened. Do you think statistics never lie to you, Dr. Petfield? This question made Petfield even more uncomfortable. Something had changed in Jasmine's speaking style. She was no longer on defense, she was on offense. Jasmine opened her folder and took out the first document. Her movement wasn't theatrical, on the contrary, it was very practical and functional. So what do these official reports tell you? A document appeared on the big screen. This was an official report from the Illinois State Veterinary Medical Association. Its title read, Pet Care Clinics Death Rate Comparative Analysis, 2019 to 2024. The room erupted. Veterinarians began whispering to each other. Journalists frantically began taking notes. Dr. Thompson leaned forward, her eyes widened. This report, Jasmine read in a calm but very clear voice, shows that the animal death rate at pet care clinics is on average 340% higher than all other veterinary clinics in Illinois state. The number hung in the air. 340%. This wasn't just a statistic, this was a disaster report. Petfield's face reddened. This is impossible. Our quality control system is very strict. Our protocols, your protocols. Jasmine showed the second document. Then how do you explain this internal company email? PetCare's internal correspondence appeared on the screen. Date stamp, email addresses, everything was clearly visible. Subject: death rates problem, URGNT date, May 22, 2023, 2:47 p.m. from James Miller at PetCare.com, Operations Manager, to Marcus de Petfield at PetCare.com, CEO Dr. Petfield. I must report an urgent situation to you. I reviewed the last 3-month statistics. Animal death rates at our clinics are far above normal levels. Illinois Veterinary Association has started asking questions. Dr. Thompson's team wants to conduct research. This situation reflects to the media. Our company's reputation will be severely damaged. Should we review procedures? What if we temporarily close some clinics? James Miller, Operations Manager, reply from Marcus de Petfield at PetCare.com, date May 22, 2023, 3:12 p.m. James: no clinic will be closed. Fix the statistics. Change the causes on death certificates. Write natural causes or age factor. Tell Dr. Thompson's team we're busy. We need to protect our profit margin. We have Q3 targets. Marcus, it was as if a bomb had exploded in the room. Shocked sounds rose. Dr. Thompson stood up, her hand covering her mouth. Dr. Rodriguez buried his head in his hands. This is fake. Petfield shouted, now looking like a man whose entire reputation was melting away. Who prepared this document? This is a conspiracy. Jasmine calmly showed the third document. Her tone hadn't changed at all, as if she did such things every day. This is the FBI's Cybercrimes Unit Digital Forensic Report, Jasmine said. They confirmed the email's authenticity. Digital signature analysis, server records, metadata, everything shows it's real. This report bore the FBI's official seal. It was impossible for it to be fake. Petfield had collapsed. He leaned back in his chair, his hands trembling. He no longer knew what to say. His 30-year career was crumbling piece by piece before his eyes. But Jasmine was just getting started. The folder in her hand was full of dozens more documents. Let's get to the main issue, Dr. Petfield, Jasmine continued, not raising her voice but speaking as if every word hit the target. What is the proactive treatment protocol applied in your clinics? Proactive treatment. Petfield stammered. This is a standard procedure. Early diagnosis of diseases, early diagnosis. Jasmine showed the fourth document. Do these hidden camera recordings look like early diagnosis to you? A horrific image appeared on the screen. It was a hidden camera recording from PetCare Clinic's examination room. The date and timestamp was clearly visible, October 15, 2023, 2:30 p.m. and the recording, a veterinarian in a white coat was looking at a golden retriever lying on the table. The dog looked healthy, wagging its tail. This dog is completely healthy, the veterinarian was saying, talking to the clinic's head nurse. But the owner is from a wealthy family. Let's say he needs chemotherapy treatment. We can make at least $15,000. Head nurse: but Dr. Wilson, the dog doesn't have cancer. Doesn't matter, the veterinarian said, laughing. We'll prepare fake test results. They won't understand anyway. The dog will last a week, then we'll say sorry, we did our best. This conversation had horrified everyone in the room. Female veterinarians began crying. Male doctors stood up. This wasn't just malpractice, this was direct murder. Do you know what this means? Jasmine's voice was trembling, but not from anger, from deep pain. This means you deliberately show healthy animals as sick and put them into deadly treatments. Petfield could no longer speak. He was just sobbing. He understood that he could no longer hide 30 years of lies. So how many? Jasmine asked. How many innocent animals died? How many families paid in vain for their loved ones and lost them? Jasmine showed the fifth document. This time, animal death records leaked from inside PetCare clinics appeared on the screen. Between 2019 to 2024, number of animals that died due to unnecessary and deliberate treatment, 12,847. This number changed the air in the room. 12,847. This wasn't just a number. This meant the pain experienced by 12,847 families. The loss of 12,847 innocent lives. The room exploded. Veterinarians rebelled. Journalists were photographing frantically. Dr. Thompson grabbed the microphone and shouted, I've been trying to research these for years. They blocked me every time. 12,847 innocent animals. Jasmine shouted, her voice now filling the entire room. They died for your profit. For your luxurious life. Petfield tried to stand up, but his hands were shaking so much he had to hold onto his chair. His face had turned white. These numbers are wrong. He mumbled, his voice now at whisper level. Wrong. Jasmine showed the 6th document. This time the anger in her voice was controlled, but therefore more effective. So what do these organ sales invoices say? A secret invoice list appeared on the screen. The header read PetCare Organ Supply System Monthly Revenue Report: PetCare Organ Sales Department, November 2023. Dog heart. Large $5,000 x 47 units equals $235,000. Dog kidney. Pair $3,500 x 83 units equals $290. 500 cat liver. $2,800 x 56 units equals $156. 800 dog liver. $7,200 x 29 units equals $208. 800 dog eye. Pair $1,500 x 94 units equals $141. 000 bone marrow. Dog $4,200 x 67 units equals $281. 400 total monthly revenue. $1, 313. 500 annual projection. $15, 762. 000 note. All organs were obtained from animals that died due to treatment failure. The room froze. No one was breathing. This was no longer just malpractice. This was an organized organ trafficking network. You. Dr. Thompson's voice was trembling with anger and horror. You're selling the organs of animals you killed. This is impossible, shouted a young veterinarian in the room. This is murder. This is nothing but massacre. Petfield collapsed. Completely collapsed. He fell from his chair to the floor, couldn't breathe. He was having a heart attack. Emergency medical assistance. Dr. Thompson shouted. All her professional reflexes kicked in. Ironically, the veterinarians trying to save Petfield were colleagues of the thousands of animals he had systematically killed. They were performing heart massage by placing their hands on his chest, while experiencing conflicting emotions inside. While the ambulance team was coming, Jasmine continued to show her last documents. Because this wasn't just about Petfield. This was about the entire system. This is also your personal wealth statement, Dr. Petfield, Jasmine said, looking at the man about to be put on a stretcher. $47 million in Switzerland, $23 million in the Cayman Islands, $31 million in Luxembourg. Total $101 million in hidden wealth. Jasmine's documents were international account statements. You made an average profit of $8,000 for each dead animal. 2.1 animals died for every dollar. As Petfield was being put on the stretcher, even while giving his last breaths, he looked at Jasmine. He tried to speak. I was just trying to grow the business. He whispered, his voice now almost inaudible. Grow the business. Jasmine's voice was cold and determined. How many lives did you burn for this business, Dr. Petfield? How many families did you destroy? As the ambulance crew strapped Petfield to the stretcher, his last words came close enough for only Jasmine to hear. Everyone. Everyone knew. The system works like this. Petfield was taken to the ambulance. He would never work as a veterinarian again. Whether he would even survive was uncertain as the room emptied. Young veterinarians surrounded Jasmine. Their eyes held a mixture of admiration, shock, and deep sadness. Congresswoman, Dr. Thompson said, her voice still trembling. How did you obtain this information? How was this evidence collected? Jasmine smiled, but it was a painful smile. I've been investigating this case for 3 years. 6 veterinary technicians, 2 nurses, and 1 veterinarian from PetCare came to me. They couldn't bear it anymore. Dr. Rodriguez stood up. The guilt he had carried for years was finally coming out. I'm also a witness, he said, his voice hoarse. I escaped from this system in 2005, but I didn't have the courage to speak then. So what happens now? Asked a young veterinarian. How will this system be cleaned? Now real justice begins, Jasmine said. But this is just the beginning. PetCare is an example. There are other big clinic chains too. We'll clean them all one by one. The next morning, all world media woke up with the same headline: PetCare CEO has heart attack after animal massacre scandal. Company killed 12,000 animals and sold their organs. Anderson Cooper opened a special broadcast on CNN. America's biggest veterinary scandal. How thousands of animals were killed for profit. Even Tucker Carlson on Fox News was shocked. This isn't just an animal rights issue. This is an indicator of corporate America's decay. BBC took the story to international dimensions. Systematic massacre in animal clinics in the USA. Are there similar cases worldwide? Reuters focused on the economic dimension. PetCare stocks fell 97%, company heading to bankruptcy. The New York Times immediately assigned its investigative journalism team to research animal clinic chains. Petfield was arrested in the hospital. However, he was in intensive care due to his heart attack, and his life was in danger. FBI kept watch at his bedside. PetCare stocks fell 97% to $4.50 on their last trading day. The company's market value dropped from $8.7 billion to $240 million in 24 hours. The Veterinary Medical Association convened urgently and temporarily suspended the licenses of all PetCare clinics. 2,400 veterinarians and 8,900 employees in 500 clinics became unemployed. The FBI conducted simultaneous raids on PetCare clinics and headquarters. What they found in their searches was horrifying. Tons of fake drugs and serum, thousands of fake test reports, organ sales documents, and price lists, dirty deal documents with other clinic chains, lists of organ buyers in foreign countries, threat recordings made to silence veterinarians. The most shocking finding was the secret organ storage facility found in the company's basement. Here, hundreds of animal organs were being kept ready for sale. Congress held an emergency session to begin discussing the Animal Rights Protection and Veterinary Accountability Act. Jasmine Crockett was the main sponsor of this law. The main articles of the bill were: mandatory camera system in all veterinary clinics recording animal deaths in a central database, heavy penalties for veterinarians applying unnecessary treatment, complete ban on organ sales, interclinic data sharing system. The American Veterinary Medical Association started a cleanup operation within itself. All members connected to Petfield were put under investigation. Harvard Veterinary School announced it was revoking all awards given to Petfield. Cornell University suspended his graduation record due to ethical violations. People magazine published a special issue announcing it was revoking his America's Most Beloved Veterinarian title. Time magazine added him to its biggest scandal of the year list. Support messages for Jasmine Crockett began coming from around the world. From PETA, Jasmine Crockett has become one of the most important figures in animal rights history. From World Animal Protection, this courage will save millions of animals. From UK Veterinary Association, this scandal in America requires veterinary ethics to be reviewed worldwide. On social media, the hashtag Justice for Animals became a worldwide trending topic. Millions of people wanted veterinary clinics in their countries to be inspected. Jasmine Crockett's congressional office was receiving over 10,000 support emails per day. Donations were also increasing rapidly. People wanted to support her animal rights work. Ellen DeGeneres dedicated a special episode on her talk show, Petfield Treated My Dog Charlie. Now I learned that when Charlie was completely healthy, he was given cancer treatment. Thank God Charlie survived, but how many animals didn't? Oprah Winfrey made a long statement on Instagram: my cat Luna had unnecessary surgery. I had trusted Petfield. This taught me a big lesson about our responsibility as celebrities. In Chicago, thousands of people gathered in front of the former PetCare headquarters building. They held dog and cat photos and banners reading "Justice." Police had surrounded the building as a security measure. But the protesters weren't violent. They were just waiting silently, lighting candles. A week later, the city council decided to use that building as an animal rights research center. A giant sign was hung at the building's entrance. This will become an animal rights research center to remind that no profit is worth innocent lives. Never again. Jasmine Crockett spoke at the center's groundbreaking ceremony. Thousands of people were listening to her. This center is not just a monument remembering the PetCare scandal. This is a promise to future generations. No clinic will be able to take animal lives for profit. From now on, every treatment will be transparent, every procedure will be audited, every loss will be questioned. But most importantly, Jasmine continued, her voice unwavering, This center is entrusted to people who don't silence their consciences. To brave people like Dr. Rodriguez, like technicians who blow the whistle from inside, like researcher scientists like Dr. Thompson. Because systems only change when honest people inside speak up. After the ceremony, donations to finance the center reached $15 million in 1 week. Animal lovers from all over the world were contributing. Petfield's story became the beginning of a veterinary revolution not only in America but worldwide and England. The Veterinary Association introduced mandatory ethics training for all members in Canada. Camera systems became mandatory in veterinary clinics in Australia. A central recording system for animal deaths was established in Germany. Veterinary malpractice penalties were increased 10-fold in Japan. Veterinary clinic chains were banned in Turkey. The Veterinary Chambers Union established a special commission on the Petfield case. 3 months later, Petfield died in the hospital. His organs had failed after the heart attack. Only his lawyers attended his funeral. But his death wasn't the end of the story. It was the beginning. The FBI investigation expanded. It emerged that other veterinary clinic chains connected to pet care had similar practices to Vetmax. 347 animal deaths Animal Care Plus, 892 animal deaths Pet Health Services, 1,156 animal deaths. The total number exceeded 15,000. Jasmine Crockett appeared on the cover of Time magazine as Animal Rights Hero. In the cover photo, she held a puppy she had rescued, and the Time magazine interview she said, "This isn't just an animal rights issue. This is about how the powerful exploit the powerless. Animals can't speak, can't defend themselves. That's why we have to speak." Forbes magazine included her in its 50 most influential people of the year list. Harvard Law Review evaluated her work as the turning point of modern animal rights law. A year later, the Federal Animal Protection Act passed through Jasmine Crockett's efforts began to be implemented throughout America. What the law brought: mandatory clinic camera system, federal recording system for animal deaths, heavy penalties for veterinary malpractice, up to 15 years imprisonment, making organ sales a federal crime, strict supervision of veterinary clinic chains, pet owners' second opinion. Right now, no veterinary clinic in America could kill animals for profit. 2 years later, veterinary malpractice cases decreased by 89%. Animal death rates returned to normal levels. The veterinary profession regained its trustworthiness. Jasmine Crockett had once again proven courage, preparation, and truth are always superior to money and power. This wasn't just a Congresswoman's victory. This was the victory of animal rights. This wasn't just a company's collapse. This was the rebirth of veterinary ethics. This wasn't just the exposure of a scandal. This was proof that justice works for animals too. And it all started with one woman's preparation, determination, and conscience. The entrance of the Animal Rights Research Center in Chicago. This inscription still stands today, in memory of 12,847 innocent lives. They couldn't speak, we spoke. They couldn't defend themselves, we defended. Never again.